On this episode of the movie review, Adventurous Ones, we're taking that final trip to the galaxy far, far away, as now we're checking out the final movies of the Skywalker saga, known as the sequel trilogy. Starting with The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and ending with The Rise of Skywalker. Were they any good? Worth the time and watching? Which ones were our favorite and which one was our least favorite? You're about to find out, because this is the movie review of Star Wars, the sequel trilogy. Let's get started. Welcome back, Adventurous Ones, for another episode of the movie review. I'm your host, as always, the master of all multiverses, and the reason why they've turned into absolute and total shitfest. Never damn well sorry for it, but you're welcome. Joseph Michaels, the Adventurous Joe, at your services, and in this episode, we're finishing off the Skywalker saga by talking about The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. Now, when these movies were originally, when this sequel trilogy was originally announced that they were going to be making it and stuff, okay, after Disney took ownership of Lucasfilm and stuff, immediately after, in 2012, immediately after it was announced that Lucas had signed over Lucasfilm to Disney and all its intellectual properties, okay, Disney came out and says, we're making the sequel trilogy. And J.J. Abrams is going to direct them. Okay, direct all three movies. Well, yes and no. In the sense of the first movie, The Force Awakens, that came out in 2015, J.J. Abrams actually did do the directing of the damn movie and stuff. Alright? And it was met with a lot of criticism. I mean, it went from being like, where people were excited for it, to once they seen it, it was along the lines of, it's a New Hope. It's a reboot of A New Hope. Okay, it's literally a reboot of A New Hope. And in all fairness, yeah, it is kind of a reboot of A New Hope. Because it goes from, we're on a desert planet known as Jakku, okay? We meet Poe Dameron and his droid BB-8 talking to Max von Sydow, better known as Ming the Merciless from the Flash Gordon movies and stuff. And he says he's got a message for Leia, you know, a map concerning Luke's whereabouts and stuff. Okay, so BB-8 gets this map put inside of him and stuff, and they basically go on getting raided by the village that they're in, gets raided by the First Order, otherwise known as the Empire, reimagined and shit. Okay, the Stormtroopers all have new helmet designs instead of the whole classic like thing we always seen them with and everything. They now have like a duckbill face to them and stuff. So it's basically Disney's way of Donald Duck as a Stormtrooper. Okay. Now, the movie started off with the best shot kind of deal, if you will. Okay, because originally in A New Hope, the movie started off with the Rebel blockade runner first, and then you see the Star Destroyer coming right after it and blasting it and stuff. This time around, it starts off with the Star Destroyer moving into position and stuff, and then shows two transport-like aircraft going down to the surface of this planet. And I'm like, and then it shows the Stormtroopers inside and everything, and it's like, whoa, okay, what's going on here? Alright, well, they find out BB-8 sees them coming down and stuff like that. He's running back into there to tell Poe what the hell happened, what's taking place and stuff. They have their conversation. They get the map. He puts it inside BB-8, and It's literally Leia giving the Death Star plans to R2-D2. Okay, only instead of launching in an escape pod to get away and shit, okay, and land on the surface of Tatooine, they're already on the planet Jakku and stuff. Poe tries to get to his X-Wing, and it gets taken out and stuff. He tells BB-8 to make a run for it. BB-8 takes off into the desert, and Kylo Ren, our main villain of sorts, our new Darth Vader, if you will, okay, he literally starts interrogating him and stuff, and they have already, the movie's off to a kind of a weird start and everything, because it's the whole, he's looking at Kylo Ren, and Poe's like, so who talks first? You talk first? I talk first? And Ren's just like, put him on board the shuttle and take him to my ship. And, okay, it goes from there and everything. And then next thing you know is that the village is all being burned. Everybody that's there and stuff, they're blasting them, they're killing them, and bringing in these flamethrower troopers and just burning everything to the ground. Okay, but in the meantime, one of the First Order stormtroopers was killed, and another one, had his blood smeared on his helmet and stuff. And this is the one that becomes our rogue character known as Finn. Okay, he goes into a panic attack and stuff, and literally like, I gotta run away. I gotta get away from all this stuff. He literally goes into a panic attack. Okay, and then when they get back on board the ship and stuff, and they're in the transport, he takes his helmet off, and apparently it's a golden rule with the First Order that you don't remove that helmet. Okay? You don't remove that helmet whatsoever. And there's another stormtrooper, a silver armored one now. I keep forgetting what her name was. Damn it. But she's played by the woman that was in Game of Thrones. The tall blonde woman. I can't remember her name now. Was it Gwendolyn Christie? I think it was. I can't remember. Anyways, she plays the commander of these stormtroopers, and her exact words to him is, who ordered you to remove your helmet and stuff, and starts getting on him about removing his helmet and stuff. And she tells him about how he's acting like a weakling and all this kind of lots of weird shit going on here. This rogue stormtrooper, Finn, he decides to help Poe get the hell off the Star Destroyer and stuff. Okay, they escape in a TIE fighter, try to take out the First Order's cannons on the damn Star Destroyer and shit, get shot down, and they go crashing down onto the planet below, back on Jakku. Meanwhile, BB-8 gets trapped by a scavenger and found, and our new particular character here, Rey, she's a scavenger herself and stuff, but she's not that kind of scavenger that would scrap a droid and stuff. Okay, she helps BB-8, rescues him and stuff from the other scavengers, and they end up, staying with each other and stuff. And the next day, when she's got to go into town, because she stays inside of a derelict Imperial Walker. Literally, this damn thing is deader than disco and shit. Okay, now the one thing about this that people were saying it's a New Hope rehash and everything else in between it is because Rey is, after Poe is taken and being tortured up on the ship and stuff. Okay, we meet Rey for the first time, and she's inside of a derelict Star Destroyer. She's literally in there scavenging for parts and all that kind of thing. Okay, things to apparently on the planet Jakku, there's a junk trading business. Okay, so scavengers have to go to these derelict ships and all this kind of shit, gather up what parts they can, and they get credits of sorts. Only they're like food packets, food and drink packets, I think, or something like that, because they're all in like little pouch things and stuff. And when you get these, apparently you put them in some water or something, and they're supposed to be like a instant meal for you or some shit. I don't know. It's some weird ass shit. Like I said, we find out about Rey right from the start. Shit, and that she claims to BB-8. She's nobody. She's a nobody. Okay, and she says she doesn't even when BB-8 asks her about her family, she says she doesn't know she has a family. She doesn't know because she's a nobody. She doesn't know if she has a family anywhere, or if there's any family around for her. Okay, the whole point of this movie is about Rey's journey to literally, something more. Okay, she meets Finn. They escape they use the Millennium Falcon to escape the planet and stuff with BB-8. After the First Order finds out they're there, starts attacking them all and shit. Okay. Then, they run into Han Solo and Chewbacca, who've been looking for the Millennium Falcon, and just a bunch of stuff going on and everything. And then you find out Han's owing money again to somebody, and it's like they said, complete rehashing of A New Hope. Even right down to finding out about Rey's force powers and stuff like that. Okay, that she finds at Maz Kanata's temple. Okay, she or resort thing, whatever you want to call it, getaway thing. Okay, she finds Luke's old lightsaber, and once she touches it, it's like the force. Like they said, the movie's called The Force Awakens. So the Force awakens inside of her all of a sudden, and she's seeing things that have happened or are going to happen. And she even ends up in the hallway in Bespin, where, in Cloud City, where Luke gets thrown out the window area by Vader and shit when they're down there fighting and shit. Okay, in The Empire Strikes Back. So there's little rehashing here and there too, and nods towards the original trilogy in this movie. So we go on to the point that we find out that the First Order hollowed out an entire planet. Literally, they hollowed out an entire planet and put a giant Death Star gun inside of it. Literally a Death Star laser in it, okay? Only this laser can target multiple planets at the same time. So when they fire it off to kill the New Republic off finally and everything, okay, this laser literally targets every freaking star planet in that system and shit, including where the New Republic is, and blows them all to Kingdom Come. And I says, oh, whoa. They hollowed out an entire planet just to fucking make it into Death Star 3.0, if you will. Anyways, the whole thing culminates into the X-Wings, Poe and his X-Wing squadron coming in there, blasting away at everything, destroying the reactor system or whatever, the same old like they did in A New Hope, and so on and so forth. Okay. Movie ends. The movie's ending, however, is completely different. Where it was a celebration of, we did this, we destroyed that planet that the First Order was on, and all this other blah, blah, blah. Okay. The movie ends differently. Oh, and by the way, Han Solo gets killed in this, too. So, Harrison Ford finally got his wish to have Han Solo offed and out of Star Wars altogether. And, so Han's dead. Rey is now given ownership of the Millennium Falcon, and she takes the Falcon after they find out where Luke is at. Okay? Because R2-D2 has been offline this whole time since Luke disappeared and stuff. Okay? So, all of a sudden, he wakes up, and he's got the other part of the map of where Luke is at. BB-8 uses his holographic projector and stuff, and they match up. Boom, there you go. The pieces fit. And Leia's like, Luke, you know, happy that they know where he's at and stuff. Okay, so Rey's mission, along with Chewbacca and R2-D2, is to go to this planet that Luke is on, and you know, and get him to come back to help out everybody and stuff. Okay, the movie ends with them landing on this planet, and it's like an island out in the middle of an ocean kind of deal. Okay, so they land on this island like area or whatever. Okay, Rey goes all the way up these damn steps and shit, and at the end of them, she finally sit by a cliffside and stuff. We see Luke Skywalker. Okay, and he is older now. He's just like living like a hermit kind of deal, and everything else in between. And the movie ends with Rey pulling out his old lightsaber and trying to hand it back to him. Okay, and that's where the movie ends. And a lot of people, like I said, when it came to The Force Awakens, this movie was met with a lot of criticism. Okay, it went from being like we were excited for it, but once we seen it, it was met with the whole, oh, it's a rehashing of A New Hope. That's all it is. It's really a rehashing of A New Hope. Little nods to the other movies and stuff like that, and here and there and everything, but it's literally just a reboot of A New Hope. Granted. Okay. However, its ending is a lot different from A New Hope. Now, J.J. Abrams, as we said, he was supposed to direct all 3 movies. This did not happen. With The Last Jedi, he left the project to go make his Star Trek movie he wanted to get done. Okay, something that could have waited until he got these movies done. Nobody was in a hurry to see more J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. Okay, The Force Awakens became something more. Oh, that's the one thing I forgot to mention too, is that The Force Awakens also became something more that could have filled and made this trilogy fantastic. Okay, one, we find out after they escape Jakku, an Imperial officer tells Kylo Ren about the fact that they escaped with the droid and stuff like that, and he says that they were helped by a girl, and automatically it wasn't like he turns around slowly or anything and stuff like that. He turns around slowly or anything like that, like, you know, curiosity, you know, kind of deal and stuff. It was automatically like rage, and he grabs the Imperial officer with the force choke and stuff and pulls him right to him and stuff and says, "What girl?" And it was like, okay, is there something we're not knowing here? What the hell is going on here? Well, during Rey's vision, okay, after she picked up Luke's lightsaber, okay, at Maz Kanata's temple there and stuff, she saw the Knights of Ren killing people and stuff like that, and then she saw Luke standing near R2-D2, or sitting near R2-D2, and watching the Jedi, apparently this was his Jedi temple burning and shit. And I was like, okay, what is going on here? Is that supposed to be Luke with R2? Okay, and why is that place burning? Why are they sitting there slumped about it like something shit went happen here? Okay. Now, it was setting up something good in The Force Awakens. Now, despite the fact that it's a rehash, okay, blah, 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 okay, it was setting up something interesting. It was setting up something good and interesting. However, that gets all changed in The Last Jedi. And The Last Jedi is what we call the it's also like a reboot of Empire Strikes Back, but it's also kind of like, what the hell was this director thinking when he did this movie the way he did? Okay, J.J. Abrams, like I said, was supposed to direct all 3 movies. He did not. In the second, when it came time to do The Last Jedi, okay, he had a partial script wrote up, and says that, I need to go do my Star Trek movie and stuff like that, so, he's not going to do The Last Jedi right now. Disney and Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy weren't, nope, they weren't hearing none of that. So they go and get another director. And this director is none other than Rian Johnson. Okay? Rian Johnson takes gave J.J. Abrams partial script a once over and said, it's not what I would do. So he had the whole damn thing rewrote, and that became The Last Jedi. This movie went from being something that could have been amazingly cool to prank calls in fucking space. Seriously? A prank call in space. Even I was just sitting back and going, in my theater seat at that point, I was like, where others were kind of laughing about the whole thing, I was just sitting back and going, what in the world is this? Okay, literally, what in the world is this? A prank call in space. It's just so fucking dumb. And here it's supposed to be a serious moment. The First Order found their base, okay? Found the Resistance base and shit. They're about to blow the whole thing to Kingdom Come. And we get Poe Dameron and BB-8 making a prank call to General Hux and them. I was like, what the hell are we doing here? What is going on here? Okay, what's even worse is we go back, and once that whole stupid shit and shebang is over with and stuff, we go back to where Luke is being confronted by Rey and stuff like that. Okay, she's literally giving him back that lightsaber and everything. He takes it in his hands, okay, and we're like, okay, this is neat. He's getting like nostalgia feel to it. He even is rubbing his hand on it and stuff. And then all of a sudden he goes, chucks it. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, he chucks it over his shoulder. Like, even Daisy Ridley's character, Rey, was just like, Master Skywalker, what are you doing? Like, even I'm sitting back and going, what the hell is this? Why the hell did he just chuck the lightsaber like that? What in the world? So, anyways, the movie is literally almost like The Empire Strikes Back. Literal. Okay, we get the space chase, we get the frickin' Luke training, being the Yoda this time around, and training Rey to be, to use her force powers and everything, to master them and everything. Okay, learning that she is getting more and more powerful by the minute. Okay, which in the words of Star Wars Theory and that Star Wars girl, made her a Mary Sue. Okay, which is really a slang word or slur, if you will, for a woman that's overpowered. Okay, and then on top of that, we learn that she is becoming more powerful by the minute and stuff. She's literally learning so quickly that everything Luke is trying to teach her, including the stance for the lightsaber and stuff like that, how she's using the lightsaber, and Luke's just sitting back and going, okay, and this is interesting how fast she's learning. And he's having like the whole Yoda moment, like he's literally like Yoda sitting back and like where Yoda was having trouble with him, trying to teach him the ways of the Force and stuff, because he was so young and arrogant. You got young and somewhat arrogant still, Rey, and she's learning so quickly that Luke is more impressed than he is disappointed. Okay, and then on top of that, There's the whole Kylo Ren blowing up his mother's ship kind of deal. Okay, as it was revealed in The Force Awakens, Kylo Ren is the son of Leia and Han Solo. Okay, Han and Leia's son. Okay, and his name was Ben. Now, when he blows up his mother's ship, okay, he kills Admiral Akbar on that ship. He literally thought he killed his mother on that ship, and he was kind of conflicted about the whole thing at first. But then he's just like, zooms away and shit after he had blown up their ship and stuff. Okay. The others are on the other ship, and they see Leia out in space. And she suddenly uses the Force. I mean, she's literally unconscious in space. And she's suddenly using the Force to pull herself to safety, and to the other ship. And once she gets on board, they find out she's unconscious. How the hell did she do that and stuff like that? Well, a lot of people said this is what they reminded them of Mary Poppins, so to speak. Okay, but if you'd actually watched Star Wars, The Clone Wars, the animated series and stuff, this maneuver has been done before by both Plo Koon, Anakin Skywalker, and a few other Jedi that were in space battles and shit like that. Plo Koon used the Force to literally pull through space Clone Commander Wolf and stuff to bring him to safety. Okay, this thing is nothing new. Now Leia doing it unconscious is a bit of a stretch, but at the same time, Luke has always said she's always been so powerful with the Force and stuff like that. We learn about all that kind of shit later on in the third movie. However, now, as it stands, Leia being unconscious and badly hurt, okay, we gotta get someone else to be in charge. Enter Vice Admiral Holdo, okay, played by Laura Dern. She takes over everything, and rather than listening to Poe Dameron about anything, because apparently he's screwed up so much already, thanks to him and his stupid prank call in space, okay, that she's not listening to him. She's not taking any advice from him. So he's trying to tell her that the First Order keeps tracking them. No matter where they're going through, and they're running out of fuel to get through to make hyperspace jumps and stuff. Okay, no matter where they're going, they keep finding them. Okay, she's not listening to none of this. So we enter with Rose Tico, played by Kelly Marie Tran, and Finn, of course, by John Boyega once again and stuff. Okay, Finn has been unconscious since The Force Awakens, the ending to The Force Awakens, when he was almost killed by Kylo Ren. Alright. There, the three of them contact Maz Kanata, and they says that they think they know what's going on here and stuff, and that the First Order is tracking them somehow. Okay, and she says, well, it's more than likely they got some kind of a code tracking device or something that's tracking you guys through hyperspace. Okay, so she tells them about a code breaker who's a friend of hers and a friend of the Resistance that's on this planet called Canto Bight. Okay, they gotta go there. Finn and Rose decide to go there, go find this code breaker and everything. They go there, find out. Now, this is where it gets a little divisive, because Rian Johnson's been known to do messaging of sorts in his movies or shows. Okay, so when it comes to this whole thing with Canto Bight, it's all about how the rich and powerful on this planet are gambling their money away in casinos or betting on horse races and shit like that. But the messaging that is in this movie is about, or in this part of the movie, is slavery. There's children enslaved, being forced to do labor and all this shit. There's animals enslaved, forced to do these races and everything else in between. While the rich support everything that the First Order is doing. So I'm just like, okay. Well, I could see where some people were getting a little ticked off over it and stuff, because it was just feeling like, messaging in about, you know, the political environment at the time, okay, when this movie came out, which was in 2017. And that was shortly after the Trump administration's first time around in the White House came about. And all the blah, blah, blah crap that was going on with that. Anyways, the whole thing culminates in them finding a code breaker after they get arrested at the casino, by the way. Okay, the code breaker they were meant to find, the guy was standing right there gambling and shit. Okay, the code breaker they find, played by Benicio del Toro, known as DJ. Okay, that's weird, but okay. And he is the one that helps them get to the First Order ship, escapes their jail cells and shit. They get to the First Order ship. They freaking use the codes to find the place where the code thing is being used and shit. Okay. The whole thing culminates in a showdown with Phasma. That's the Silver Stormtrooper, the commander I was trying to tell you about in The Force Awakens. Okay. She fights Finn one-on-one after they've been captured and stuff. They're trying to make their big escape. BB-8 got inside of one of the damn chicken walker things they got there and shit. That's like an ATST there and stuff. And he starts blasting away at everybody with it and everything. And Phasma apparently supposedly dies. But we find out later in an Aftermath story comic, she didn't actually die. So that's a big plus right there and everything. However, in this movie, it's literally starting to become The Empire Strikes Back over and over and over. Okay, to the point that we even have TIE fighters chasing the Millennium Falcon through an underground chasm that's literally like them chasing through the asteroid field. Okay. So, yeah, the movie's culmination that really gets everyone's irked up and stuff is that Luke shows up finally, okay? And he confronts Kylo Ren, but it's not really Luke. Okay, it is Luke, but it's not really Luke is there. Because after what happened with Ben, before Ben turned to the dark side and stuff, Luke was having dark visions that said he needs to kill his nephew. Okay, he needs to take care of his nephew now and stuff before it's too late. And apparently these visions were being put into him by some dark sider or whatever, and he was listening to them to the point that he tried to strike down his nephew while he was sleeping. Okay. And because of this, Ben went off the rails, turned to the dark side, and joined the First Order. And became Kylo Ren under the tutelage of Snoke. And Snoke became the Supreme Emperor, okay, or Supreme Leader, excuse me, okay, of the First Order. He's literally a Palpatine clone. That's all he is. He's literally a clone of Palpatine, which we find out in the third movie and stuff, which I'm going to get to in a minute here. Now, everything literally comes to a head, and Luke confronts him. Luke dies from confronting him. I know. And then we go to Rey rescuing everyone, getting them off the planet, and the movie pretty much ends from there and stuff. Oh, and by the way, the old lightsaber of Luke's, it got into it after Kylo killed Snoke using Luke's lightsaber and shit. Okay, he literally, him and Rey fought the Praetorian guards that protected Snoke. Then you think, okay, right then and there, Ben Solo is coming back to the light. Okay, he's fighting alongside Rey and shit. He killed Snoke. Okay, let's go. No, that's not the case here. He freaking literally tries to get Rey to join him as the new Supreme Leader of the First Order and stuff. Together, the two of them could be the most powerful in the galaxy and stuff. She says no to the whole thing, and he tries to take her lightsaber away. They get into a force struggle, and the lightsaber gets torn in half. And Rey picks up the pieces after Ren's knocked unconscious and stuff. She picks up the pieces of it and stuff and runs away to join Chewie on the Falcon and get down to the planet. Okay, now, like I said, the movie ends with the fact that the lightsaber is broken. Rey thinks that there's nothing left anymore to it and stuff, and Leia tells her that what's broken can be made whole again and stuff like that. Okay, and that's where our movie ends. The good guys got away, just like at the end of The Empire Strikes Back. The good guys got away, and Luke died. Okay, only this time around Luke died. Now, where's the problems in all this? It's hard to imagine. For one, Rian Johnson did everything so piss poor wrong in this movie. Literally, he went from messaging about slavery and how the rich and powerful are human garbage and shit like that, okay, to comical shit that really didn't need to be in there. I mean, seriously, the whole Luke throwing his lightsaber, that was just so disrespectful in all senses of the word. And then on top of that, the whole prank call in space. Oh God, the prank call in space. It was just so fucking stupid. Now, one thing that a lot of people says about this movie is it trashes on the legacy of Carrie Fisher. Now, the thing is, when people are sitting there trashing on the sequel trilogy, okay, and they're trying to say it trashes on the legacy of Carrie Fisher and stuff like that, Carrie Fisher died after filming this movie. Seriously, she passed away, I think, about a month or two or so after The Last Jedi was done filming. Okay, and people like to say how this sequel trilogy trashes on her legacy and everything else in between. No, it is the people that are trashing on the sequel trilogy that are trashing on the legacy of Carrie Fisher. She's been in all these Star Wars movies, from A New Hope all the way up to here. Okay, she's even in The Rise of Skywalker, but it's complicated how she was put in there. Okay, and we'll talk about that in just a bit here. And my thoughts on The Last Jedi is it could have been something amazing if J.J. Abrams just stuck with it. Okay, and instead of bringing Rian Johnson into it, who just tore this thing to shreds. And even Mark Hamill said in an interview during a con at one point and stuff, said that he said to Rian Johnson, we need to be thinking about the fans, okay, and what the fans are expecting from this and stuff. And Rian Johnson came back and told him, no, we need to think about this movie, and we need to think about the movie and the film that we're making here and stuff. And it was just like Rian Johnson did not give two fucks about the fans or what they will think. Okay, it was about, I'm in charge, this is my movie, we're gonna do it my way, and so on and so forth. But him and Mark Hamill did actually get into it over a piece of dialogue that was not in his script that Mark Hamill improvised. And that was about Rey, saying that after the spirit of Yoda showed up and sets that tree on fire and shit, and Luke is panicking and going, the sacred Jedi text and stuff like that, not knowing that Rey took the damn shit with her. Seriously, she took all the books with her. Yoda tells him they're not needed and stuff like that. He says, the girl is powerful and all this other stuff. And Luke comes out and says, I can't be who she wants me to be. Okay? And that was hinting right then and there that she might be the daughter of Luke Skywalker. Okay? Because as it stands right now, Rey's parentage was unknown. Until, of course, the whole Kylo Ren thing, but, you know, when they were confronting each other after they killed the Praetorian Guard. And he comes out and told her her parents were nobodies. They were drunken junkers, scavengers that, you know, abandoned her and shit. And I says, what the hell? I mean, that was my exact words, too. I was sitting there in the theater watching this shit. And I says, what the hell? And it was like Rian Johnson took the concept that was started in The Force Awakens, and if J.J. Abrams had just stuck with it and did the second movie like they wanted him to do and shit, okay, all that was planned, or whatever might have been planned, just went flying right out the window. Because now Rey's being considered a nobody once again, but now her parents were supposedly drunken junkers. Yeah, this is why I do not much care for The Last Jedi. It has its moments, okay, especially the Millennium Falcon flying and getting chased by the TIE fighters and shit like that. The AT-AT walkers, the First Order walkers, and the ski speeders. It was pretty much Hoth all over again and shit. Like I said, literally almost a rehash of Empire Strikes Back. Now, my biggest problem with this film is too much comical crap. Seriously, we don't need all the comical shit in it. And then the messaging. We get it. Slavery's bad. These rich people are scum and everything else in between. We don't need that messaging there, okay? You just need to say, hey, these people support the First Order. They don't give two fucks about any life, human life and stuff like that. Okay, that's simple enough. That's just showing how Star Wars, the galaxy is with the First Order running around and shit. You got the morons that will support that bullshit. Okay? Then there's also the bleak undertones here. For one, after the ski speeder gets crashed that Rose Tico was in and stuff, Finn rushes over to her to get her out of the wreckage and shit to save her life. She kisses him. They literally share a kiss between them and stuff. And he asked her why she did that. And she says, you always have to protect the people you love. And I was like, huh? Wait, what? How in the world did she fall in love with him within days? What kind of... Okay, whatever. Anyways, after The Last Jedi came out, it once again was met with huge criticisms. I meant very huge criticisms. From everyone from Star Wars Explained to Star Wars Theory himself, okay? It was met with a lot of criticisms. But then again, it was also met with the whole Mary Sue, you know, okay? That shit, it just doesn't comply with me and shit, okay? Now, was it one that I enjoyed? Somewhat. Okay, I can't say I actually enjoyed The Force Awakens a little more, but when it comes to The Last Jedi, it's an up and down scale, if you will. Okay, now let's jump forward to 2019 and the rise of Skywalker. Here we go. J.J. Abrams seen the disaster that happened when he left to do his Star Trek movie, which, by the way, that freaking thing didn't do very good at the box office. Okay, it made its money, but it didn't do very good, and was met heavy criticisms over how it turned out and stuff. So he came back to do damage control, if you will. Okay, he said that he'll get to work writing on a script and everything. He'll get this shit all fixed and stuff. And Bob Chapek where Kathleen Kennedy said, okay, you know, we're happy to have you back and stuff. Bob Chapek, however, at the time, the president and CEO of Disney at the time, before Bob Iger came back, okay, said, no, you left us hanging here and shit. You left us with, when we needed this movie out there, and you were under contract to direct all 3 fucking movies and stuff, okay, no, you're done. We don't want nothing. We don't want you back on this. We're going to get someone else. Enter Colin Trevorrow. Colin Trevorrow had an idea that probably would have been a great thing for the Rise of Skywalker and stuff, but because it's supposed to get on the whole family-friendly kind of shit, okay, his ideas kind of got thrown to the wayside, and because of a difference in opinion, he walked away from the project. So they had no choice but to bring back J.J. Abrams and let him do the damage control. Because Colin Trevorrow's whole thing was going to be completely different. There was going to be a war on Coruscant. There was going to be beheading of freaking rebel resistance pilots that were captured and stuff by the First Order. They were literally going to be beheaded and stuff. This was all based in concept art that he'd done for the film. Okay, they said no to all that. Literally. I mean, I would have been okay with the whole fighting on Coruscant thing and stuff like that. You know, showing a bleak whatever is going on there and shit. But the whole public execution thing, kind of, yeah. But what's funny about it is that Rian Johnson tried to do that public execution shit in The Last Jedi. Okay? And that didn't go nowhere either. Yeah, I mean, it literally did not go anywhere. They were ready to the stormtrooper had his thing and laser like scythe or whatever you want to call it out, and he was ready to behead Finn and Rose. Okay? That didn't last very long, because that's when you found out BB-8 was inside one of those freaking walkers and started blasting everybody on in the way. So it's like, whew. Anyways, Colin Trevorrow tried to make it happen in The Rise of Skywalker, and Disney said, no, we're not having that. They said it was bad enough Rian Johnson went against us and tried to do that shit in The Last Jedi. We're not having it in this one. Okay? So, difference of opinion. Colin Trevorrow got pissed off. Left the project. So, he didn't even start anything on The Rise of Skywalker. He just presented concept art to them and stuff and went from there. Once Disney said no to his ideas and everything he was going to do in the movie, Colin Trevorrow just walked away. That was it. He was done. But he did voice his criticisms later on about the whole thing, and even presented the concept art to the community and to the Star Wars community and stuff, and says, this is what I had in mind for The Rise of Skywalker and stuff. Okay, some interesting things there and stuff, but the beheading part, public execution shit, no, some people even said that, you know, they wouldn't have been for that. But at the same time, much like every trilogy, we got the darker, then darkest. Okay. However, in this case, it's along the lines of light, darker, and then brightest, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Okay. My whole thing with The Rise of Skywalker is interesting story behind that one is that for me, it's a personal favorite. For one, back when The Last Jedi came out, 2017, December of that year and stuff, July of that year, I came down very sick. I started to lose all my strength and everything else in between. I had trouble getting out of bed. I would be sleeping longer than necessary. I was getting massively bad pains in my head and chest, and just a bunch of shit that was going on at the time. And once the Rise of Skywalker was announced, I thought this would be the last movie I'd ever get to see, because my health was deteriorating so bad from that point. Hell, in February of 2018, excuse me, I was in the hospital. I was literally in the hospital at that point. And that's when I found out what was going on with me. They said a part of my heart has stopped beating. So that's why I'm feeling exhausted, no blood flow, and everything else in between. They said we might have to do open heart surgery to see what's going on with it, but they said we'll give it time. Maybe it'll once you start getting more rest and everything else in between it, you should be feeling much better, and it might start the blood flow back in there again and shit. At the time, my mom was also going through her own issues with cancer, and we didn't know how much longer she was going to be around and stuff. But rather than worry about herself, she was more worried about her son, me. And I tried to tell her that, I might be gone before she does and stuff. And she always kept telling me that I needed to have this positive attitude about things. I was like, okay, positive attitude. I might be dead before you. Jesus. So yeah, The Rise of Skywalker holds a special place for me, because I got to see it in the theater. Now, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, my mom got to see both of those. Okay? When they came on TNT, we watched them on television and stuff. This was before we had Disney Plus and all that shit, okay? And we could just go there and watch those movies and stuff. Now, she watched them on TNT, and she said she likes where it was going with The Force Awakens, but why did they screw up everything with The Last Jedi? Okay, why is everything all screwed up with The Last Jedi? I says, I don't know, Mom. Maybe they'll course correct it later and stuff like that. And yeah, and she never got to see the Rise of Skywalker, because of April 24th, 2021, she lost her battle. She passed away, never getting to see the Rise of Skywalker. I told her how it went when I saw it at the theater and stuff, and how certain things of it made me cry, and she would give me the biggest hugs, telling me it's gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay, and yeah, well, she left before I could, and part of me was lost at that point. I didn't know what to do. And when The Rise of Skywalker actually came on TNT for the first time, I cried. I cried my eyes out. And because I got to see this movie in the theater, thinking this was going to be my last time to see a movie in the theater, let alone a Star Wars movie for that matter. And instead, it was my mom that just never got to see this. Never got to see how it would end. And even my dad, once he watched it and stuff, he was just like, okay, if they were setting it up for those two to be in love and have a life together after she brought him back to the light and everything, why did they kill him off? Why did they kill off Ben Solo? I don't know, Dad. I don't. But anyways, 2021 became the epitome of my life, okay? Because after I thought my life was going to end. I went down to Georgia, stayed down there for a month with my sister and her family, my older sister and her family, and started to get more rested. Literally rested. I was coming back to life again. And in 2022, once I returned from Georgia in January of 2022, everything began to change for me. I came back to YouTube. I decided no more political crap, no more politics and all that shit. We're just going to do toy reviews, comic book reviews, and so on and so forth. I had a lot of planning I had to do, and it all worked out. I'm at yours truly, still here, 48 years old and still here. Now, let's talk about The Rise of Skywalker before I get into more of a tangent, if you will. The movie kicks off with a chase with the Millennium Falcon and stuff like that. They met up with a contact of theirs that was telling them about the First Order making some weird moves and shit. And no. Let's rephrase that. The movie kicked off actually with Kylo Ren making his way to Exegol. Now, this is a planet we did not hear about before, but it got spoiled, among other things that get spoiled, in the visual dictionary that came out before the frickin' movie came out. Oh, God. Yeah. Bad thing about visual dictionaries for movies is that they give you too much spoiler information. Literally. Anyways, Kylo gets through this rift thing and ends up on Exegol. He walks in, he lands on the planet, finds out there's this old Sith temple there and shit. Okay, he's literally walking into the damn place and starts seeing everything around him and shit. He sees vats with Snoke's body in them and shit. And he's like, thinking to himself, wait a minute, why is Snoke there and stuff? Is he still alive? Am I going to have to kill him again? And that's when we are confronted with, ta-da! Emperor Palpatine. Yep, still alive. Only he's very decayed and decrepit and kind of blind because of what happened with his Force lightning and shit, literally tearing his body apart, if you will. Okay. After Vader chucked him down that damn shaft. Okay. Yeah. We find out he's alive. He knows something about Rey. And he wants Kylo to, do this for him and shit. Then we cut to the fact of the Falcon and the whole chase scene with that and stuff taking place, for escaping First Order TIE fighters and shit. Only we learn about something new that apparently is a big no-no when it comes to hyperspace travel. Light skipping. Light speed skipping. What? Yeah. Poe literally does this with the Falcon. He goes into hyperspace, but then jumps out of hyperspace, then jumps back into hyperspace. And it's literally a bad thing, especially if you're got a ship like the Millennium Falcon. Yeah, the Falcon probably could take it and shit, but once he gets back to the planet that the Resistance is now hiding on and shit, okay, where Rey's doing her Jedi training under Leia, and yeah, that's the other thing too. Leia is in this movie, not played by a different actress or anything like that, or digitally rendered kind of shit and stuff. She is in this movie because Abrams did a frickin' smash and grab from the Force Awakens. Okay, literally taking scene stuff that she filmed that they left on the cutting room floor, that taking that and splicing it into scenes where she's interacting with characters. Okay, and everybody said, well, her daughter Billie Lourd was in this movie and stuff. Why didn't they just use her? Okay, they could have still done the whole facial thing and stuff, and you know, Billy Lord could have been playing her mother and stuff. Well, that's a thing too that we'll talk about later on as it goes. Okay, the thing is that she's training Rey to finish her Jedi training and shit. Luke's gone now, so she has no one to teach her the ways of the Force, and those books that she took, she's literally learning things from the Jedi, sacred Jedi text and stuff. And that's when she learns about the Sith dagger. And says that, okay, you know, once Poe gets back and stuff like that, which she chews his ass out for what he did to the Falcon. Okay, with the whole light speed jump skipping shit, okay? And after that nice little reunion and chewing each other out and shit. Oh, by the way, BB-8 narcs on her for dropping a tree on him. Because he's sitting here, Poe's getting chewed out by Rey about what he did to the Falcon. BB-8 comes up and says that, you know, hey, Poe, she dropped a tree on me. He's like, you dropped a tree on him? And he's like, and she's like, well, not on purpose, you know. It was an accident. Unlike what you did to my ship. And yes, Rey is now going by the moniker of Han Solo, my ship. Okay, she's not saying the Falcon. She says my ship. I was like, oh boy. Yeah. So, anyways, they go to this desert world where a big celebration apparently is taking place. That takes place there every so often or whatever, every few years or whatever. They're trying to avoid the First Order because they're there looking for. I guess they were looking for them and shit. And they're mixing it. They're around there and mixing in the crowd and stuff. They get pulled aside inside this caravan thing or cargo transport or whatever. Okay, and the masked person takes off his thing and stuff, and it's Lando. Okay, he talks to them, tells them about a derelict ship that crashed out in the canyon area and shit. And so on and so forth. Okay, so before they leave, though, he says about tell Leia I send my love, you know, and goes from there. And one thing we did not know is Lando had kids. He ended up having children of his own and stuff. It's a possibility that Finn was might have been his son. Because Finn says he has no memory of his mom or dad and stuff because he was so little when the First Order took him. And the same goes for another character we'll meet later on in the movie on Endor. Yeah, we're going to be going back to a lot of places from Return of the Jedi, literally going back and forth kind of deal. And once they find out what they needed to know about this ship from Lando and stuff, okay, they start to make their way. The First Order sees them there and shit, starts chasing after them and everything. They get into like a speeder chase kind of deal and stuff. And all of a sudden there's this new thing, or what's new to them anyway. And that's the fact that stormtroopers can fly now. And they have this whole back and forth thing with each other going, they can fly now? They can fly now! I was like, yeah, they've been doing that, you know? They were doing that a long time ago, before all of this. Anyways, the desert chase goes into where they beat the First Order. They get into the desert point where in the canyon area and stuff, and just as they're about to get towards walk towards this derelict ship that they were supposed to go to and shit, they get pulled into the quicksand and stuff. Finn starts trying to tell Rey something, and a lot of people thought, oh, maybe he's confessing his feelings to her and stuff. No, it turns out he was trying to tell her he's Force sensitive. Okay, that he's been feeling the Force for quite some time now and everything. And he never gets to that point of telling her, because they end up with the whole finding the Sith dagger thing and stuff. But they find it in this underground cavern like shit. Okay, and they find this big snake-looking serpent thing. Or, yeah, snake-like thing. It's like a snake-like creature of some kind. But, rather than everyone else is ready to panic and shit, Rey goes over and literally, uses the Force to talk to it. Literally calm it down and stuff. And I heard a lot of criticism about that kind of thing, about, how the Mary Sue is able to do this shit and stuff. Well, what's his name? Whatever the slur name they would call him and stuff, okay. Anakin did that in the Attack of the Clones. So, when he was confronted the Reek, that three-horned rhino-looking thing, okay, he used the Force, literally was talking it down and stuff, calming it down, and it allowed him to get him and Padme on its back and stuff. Okay, this is nothing new that Rey was doing. However, something we did know that Rey did that we've never seen done before is Force healing. Okay, and that is where she literally goes over to this snake-like creature and stuff, and serpent-like creature or whatever, and she's got it calmed down. She's going like this, touching it and, like soothing, calm down and stuff, and sees that it's badly injured. Okay, she uses her Force healing on it to heal it. Now that's something new we've never seen done before. I've never seen it in any of the Star Wars films, and in the Clone Wars even. I've never seen that done before. And apparently it's something she read in the Jedi text that she took from those books. Okay? Now, here's where things get complicated. Because the whole thing that Rian Johnson screwed up, J.J. Abrams tries to correct. But now he's no longer trying to correct it the way he was planning to do in The Force Awakens, or whatever planning he was doing. Because now we learn that, yes, her mom and dad were indeed scavengers. But they were they weren't just scavengers. They were on the run from Palpatine. And it turns out that her father was Palpatine's son. So, yeah, that's where this goes complicated and shit. Because she starts getting the Force, she starts seeing everything that happened to them. She sees this bounty hunter that tracked them all down, tracked them both down and stuff, asking where the girl is and stuff. They wouldn't tell them a damn thing. So, he stabs them both with that damn Sith dagger, and went from there. Ah, damn. And after that, Rey is confronted with the fact that she really isn't nobody to, she really, her parents, Kylo was telling the truth and all this shit. Now, a lot of people considered this maybe Kylo was on his approach to them and shit, coming after her and stuff. Okay, a lot of people consider this maybe a Force vision that was forced in there and stuff to make her think this. Okay. Anyways, getting back on track here. Chewbacca gets captured by the Knights of Ren. Rey tries to save him and stuff, thinking that the transport she's trying to stop, okay, he's on there and stuff. She's trying to hold it with the Force. Ren is literally pushing it with the Force to keep it out of her grasp. And she suddenly uses Force Lightning to frickin' bring it down. And it's like, yeah, she used Force Lightning, which is a Sith trick. So, which we know Palpatine is capable of doing and shit. Ren is shocked when he's seen what the hell happened. And he's like, oh my god, she really is the granddaughter of Palpatine. Okay? Now, In order to find out what this Sith dagger is and shit, it takes them all the way to another place that's like an ice planet. Only it's like a literal iceberg in space, if you will. Okay? And they go there. Zori Bliss meets up with them and stuff. Apparently her and Poe had a thing back in the day or something. Because she likes to, her favorite word for him is space trash. Okay? She never calls him anything other than, you know, that when she confronts him and stuff. And she says that there's quite a bounty out on their heads and stuff. And he says, "Are you going to turn us in?" She says no. And that's when Rey tells her what they're trying to do, what they're doing there and stuff. She takes them to this little furry guy. Literally, he's a little furry guy. He's just, you see, if you've seen The Mandalorian and Grogu, or if you've seen The Mandalorian season 3, you met these furry little guys, okay? But this is where we first meet one of those furry little guys, and he is the only one that can reprogram C-3PO to read the damn text on the Sith dagger. Because only a Sith can read it, or a droid that's programmed with Sith technology can read it, okay? So, they get, just before C-3PO's reprogrammed, memory wiped and shit, okay, that, in order to read the dagger and shit, he says, they ask the 3PO if he's ready and stuff, and he's literally looking at them all and stuff, and Rey asks, "Is there something wrong?" And he says, "I'm just taking a look one last time at my friends." And that's when he gets deactivated and shit. Now, okay, anyways, after he gets reprogrammed and is able to read the Sith dagger, they learn they got to go all the way back to where the last battle happened, okay, on the planet Endor. Yep, they got to go all the way back to Endor. This thing is starting to rehash Return of the Jedi in many freaking ways, because before they do that, Rey finds out Chewbacca's still alive. They got to rescue him. They get up there to rescue him and shit. They learn that General Hux has been their contact this whole time, feeding the Resistance all the spy information. He's literally their spy. Okay. 3PO still under the Sith control and shit. He's got Chewbacca's bowcaster. He literally blasted the stormtroopers and shit. I said, because he's got red eyes and everything, and we're like, whoa. And he literally does this shit. They escape off the First Order ship, but not before Ren and Rey. Oh, this is one thing I forgot to mention in The Last Jedi. Something new called the Force Dyad. Okay, apparently this is a connection that Rey and Ren have with each other, and they can see each other. Okay, literally almost feel and touch one another and stuff. Okay, to the point that when this shit happened in The Last Jedi, it happens again now. And Rey is in Kylo's chambers. She's literally in his private quarters, his chambers, and sees Vader's helmet there, the burnt remains of his helmet and shit. Okay, his mask. And they get into it, and this was the strangest thing in the world, is this Force Dyad thing. When he learns that they're on board the ship, okay, they get into it, lightsaber to lightsaber, and she smashes that damn Vader helmet and the pedestal it was on. And then they escape the First Order ship, get on the Millennium Falcon and escape and stuff. That's when we meet Sir Richard, Richard E. Grant, Okay, and he is literally the real commander of the First Order and shit. And when he finds out Hux is the traitor, he just shoots him dead. Okay, and then he says, "Find me the Supreme Leader." And that's when he talks to Kylo Ren about everything, and Ren says that she's going to. I know where she's going, and set course for there and shit. Okay, so first things first, they head to Endor. Okay, we're back on Endor. We're seeing the wreckage of the fucking Death Star. I mean, seriously, apparently it been floating above space for so long and shit that wreckage started just falling into Endor's atmosphere and shit, and crashing into the ocean area and stuff, crashing into other parts too. But this is where things get really complicated, because Rey confronts herself on this Death Star, and this was the creepiest part of this whole thing and stuff, because she's walking in here into the Death Star's hallway and shit. You see dead bodies there, decayed, all like skeletons and shit like that. You see stormtrooper helmets laying around and shit. And I was like, whoa. And that was telling you right there, the war that they had in Return of the Jedi costed a lot of lives that didn't make it off that Death Star when it blew up. Okay? And then she goes into Palpatine's throne room. Seriously, that throne room is still sitting there. The fucking chair is still sitting there. I says, that shit got blown, that whole damn place got blown up, and that fucking thing is still intact? Yeah. And it starts playing that, you know, that Imperial theme of sorts. And I was like, oh, that's creepy. And that's when she sees this hidden room. She goes into the hidden room and gets confronted by Luke got confronted by Vader in The Empire Strikes Back. Okay, on Dagobah. He goes into that cave, gets confronted by Vader, takes his head off and shit, finds out that, it's Luke under the mask and stuff, and Luke's just like confused and shit. Okay, only this time around, Rey's confronted by herself. This dark vision of her talks to her and everything, fights her with the lightsaber at one point and shit. And hers was a double-bladed lightsaber, for God's sake. It was like, damn, bro. And they get into it. She leaves out of that room. Literally falls onto the floor after she found the wayfinder and stuff, and that apparently is the way to get to Exegol, like Ren did in the first place and shit. Okay, she finds it, ended up dropping it and stuff. Ren picks it up and says, "You won't be needing this," and he literally smashes it. And she's like, no! And just like loses her temper, starts freaking going at it with him and shit. Lightsaber to lightsaber, bam, bam, bam. They're on top of the wreckage of the Death Star. Finn's calling out to her and telling her that, to stop. We'll be right, we're almost there. Hang in there and shit. She's freaking mad as hell. She's literally slamming the hell out of Ren to the point that it becomes just like Vader and Luke in Return of the Jedi towards the end. That instead of losing a hand, she puts her lightsaber right through Ren. And I was like, dude, did she just kill Ren? No. Rey is too much the kind-hearted person and loving soul that feels a connection with Ben Solo here. Okay, so she uses her force healing again, her force heal ability and stuff, and cauterizes his wound, making it like the lightsaber never even went through him and shit. And she says, I wasn't trying to kill you. I was trying to save you. Okay, and that's when she takes his wayfinder and leaves. And everybody's just like, Rey, come back, you know. She takes his ship and literally leaves with it. And so now they're all confused. What the hell's going on here? Rey's leaving. They got to get back to the Resistance and let them know what's going on and shit. Okay. Lots of things culminate into where this final battle is heading. They literally have Rey go back to Iwatu, which is the planet that is where Luke was staying on The Last Jedi and stuff. Okay, she's mad as hell. She's burning this and that and stuff. And just as she's about to throw Luke's lightsaber into the fire, it goes flying out of her hand and boom, into Luke's. And that's when we're confronted with the fact that Luke Skywalker is a Jedi and Force spirit now and stuff. He tells her that this is no way to treat the weapon of a Jedi. And I'm like, that's the Luke Skywalker we needed in The Last Jedi. Okay? He tells her, she asks him if he always knew about Palpatine, her being related to Palpatine and so on and so forth. He says, yes, Leia knew too. But we didn't say nothing to you and stuff for fear it might have led you down the dark path. And she says, I have to confront him. I have to end this. And Luke says to be careful that she doesn't fall into that trap that Palpatine wants her to fall into and stuff. And she says, but what can I do? I don't have a way to get to Exegol now and stuff. Since she crashed Ren's fighter into the fucking ground and shit, and that's why the damn thing was on fire. So, what does Luke do? He pulls a Yoda and literally raises up his X-Wing from its hiding place and shit, and gives it to Rey to use. And she's just like, look in shock and awe, and Luke has got this big smile on his face, and I was like, he pulled a Yoda! He pulled a Yoda! Loved it. Long story short on everything, Rey gets to Exegol, but before she does, she helps the Resistance fight that are leading their ships there and stuff like that, okay, and their fighters, to go there and stuff to face the Emperor and his armada and everything else in between. Okay, she's literally using the Wayfinder and leading them a path to get through the rift, just like Kylo Ren did at the beginning of the movie. Okay, and they use this to get there. Flying through the rift and everything, following her path to get there and stuff. She lands on Exegol to go confront Palpatine and shit. Palpatine is ready to welcome her with open arms, literally. I mean, he's like, not like, oh, you know, I need to kill you kind of deal and shit. No, he's literally like, you're here now, embrace me, you'll embrace my empire, you'll be the most powerful Sith Lord ever and shit. And she's like, nah, I ain't having none of that. Okay, I'm here to kill your ass and get it over with and shit. Okay. Ben Solo, on the other hand, has come back to the light after a nice little conversation with his dead father and stuff. Yes, Harrison Ford makes one more appearance here in the sequel trilogy to let Ren know he's not Kylo Ren anymore. Kylo Ren is dead. You're Ben Solo. You're my son. Okay? And I'm very proud of you and all that stuff. Okay, well, lo and behold, Ben Solo now, was able to get back to Exegol the same way Rey did and shit, only without the Wayfinder. He used the Force to get through there, apparently. And the culmination leads to the two of them fighting side by side again after he kills the Knights of Ren, by the way, because she pulls a magic trick of sorts where the Force dyad between them and stuff can teleport objects now. So she literally takes her lightsaber behind her back, makes it disappear, and Palpatine's just like, what the hell did you just do? And it appears behind Ben, and he's got it in his hand now. The Knights of Ren are like, what the hell is this? And he's just like, yeah, just shrugs it off and then just starts wailing on their asses. So, once that happens, the two of them are reunited. They're fighting off the Praetorian Royal Guards that are there and shit, and so on and so forth. Just a culminated battle of the two of them fighting side by side and getting ready to face Palpatine. Palpatine hits them with his Force lightning and shit, or Force life theft, if you will, or whatever. He started to hit them both and shit, and they just like are suddenly feeling like, you know, they've been hit by a brick wall or something. And he sees his hands and stuff starting to heal and stuff. That's when he realizes he's got to drain their life force out of both of them and shit to become whole again. And so that's what he starts doing. In the meantime, as this is going on and shit, okay, the firefighting is going on above them and shit in space. They're trying to destroy these Star Destroyers, these revamped Star Destroyers that now have a super laser that can destroy whole planets and shit, just like you saw in The Force Awakens do with that one giant one. Now there's ones attached to these revamped Star Destroyers and shit. So they're trying to fight them off. The First Order TIE fighters are wailing on them and shit. They just aren't making enough damage, and so on and so forth. And that's when Lando shows up with the Millennium Falcon. And when Poe is sitting there thinking all hope is lost, you know, there's nothing, we failed and everything else in between. There's just too many of them. And Lando shows up and says, but there's more of us, Poe. There's more of us. And he literally flies his X-Wing upward and shit and sees the whole galaxy has come together to kill the First Order. I says, holy shit. People, damn. You should have seen people in the theater at that point. They were cheering their asses off, going, woo! You know, like that. They were excited over this shit. Because Lando is leading the charge in the Falcon. We got to see the Ghost from the fucking Star Wars Rebels there and shit. There was all sorts of ships there that were ready to kick the shit out of the First Order. And because they're tired of them and shit. Screw that crap. You blew up an entire system just to kill everyone and shit. Okay, we're done with that shit. Nope. They literally come together to fight the First Order tooth and nail, okay? And it was a beautiful freaking moment. Especially when they find Poe is happy as hell when he hears Zori Bliss. You know, when a Y-Wing flies by and blasts one of those damn cannon things and shit on the Star Destroyers. And he says, who is that? And who is that pilot and stuff? And she says, how's it going, space trash? And he's like, Zori! You're alive! Yeah, that guy just horn dog for that girl. That's all it is. Anyways, the space battle's commencing. It looks like the Resistance is on the winning streak finally and shit. They're gonna win this against the First Order. And now a fully charged Palpatine unleashes Force lightning into the sky and shit, and he literally starts frying all the Resistance ships and stuff, and bringing the battle back to the First Order and shit. It's just like, at this point, Ben got thrown. By the way, Ben Solo got literally thrown off a cliff, or into a chasm, if you will. Okay. Rey is laying there practically on death's door, and drained of practically all of her life force at this point. She starts hearing she's seeing past everything, the space battle, everything that's going on. She sees into the far and deepest reaches of the space itself and stuff, and starts hearing the voices of Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, frickin' Mace Windu and shit. They were all telling her she needs to get up. She is not done. We will grant you the strength to stop this and stuff. The Force is strong with you, Rey. Okay? This is where the movie could have been really fucking off the chain and stuff. Because instead of the Force letting her hear all these voices and shit, they could have literally did a thing where the Force ghosts of all of them appear and frickin' help give her the power to push and destroy Palpatine once and for all. Destroy the entire Sith once and for all. Okay? But instead, they do none of that. And that's a missed opportunity right there. So, Rey gets back up. She's got both lightsabers in hand. And she is literally ready to fight Palpatine tooth and nail and shit. He uses the Force lightning on her and shit. And she literally is using the Force and both lightsabers to redirect that shit right back at him and kill him. And it literally disintegrates his whole body. And once they blow up the main Star Destroyer that Richard E. Grant was on, Sir Richard E. Grant, excuse me, all of it just blows up. Every Star Destroyer around them starts to destroy itself. They start self-destructing and shit. It's like, what the hell? So apparently destroying the main one destroys all of them, including the ones that they already dispatched to Endor, Tatooine, and so on and so forth. They were gonna, and they all just start blowing up. And it's like, whoa. Okay, so apparently one Star Destroyer was in control of all of them, and you just kill them all, kill the one, and it's all over. Okay, but they win the final battle. Rey dies. Literally, Rey dies. Okay, she drained the last of her life force out of her to frickin' stop Palpatine and used all the force powers that the Jedi spirits gave her and shit. Okay, the voices of the Jedi gave her and stuff. She literally dies. Ben is back. Ben Solo is back. He got out of that chasm he was thrown into and shit. He sees her laying there and stuff. He grabs her in his arms and, feels her face that she's cold. Her eyes are wide open and everything. And he's feeling, he listens to her chest and there's nothing. And that's when he pulls her to him to, and starts using the Force ability to heal her, to bring her back to life. He's literally given her the life energy he has to live again and stuff. And when she comes back, she literally grabs him and kisses him to, they almost have like a passionate type kiss between them that, had both of them smiling. But then Ben passes away. And we're all like, what the hell? Yeah, that's the end of Ben Solo. So, what happens from here? Well, the battle is over with. The Resistance is returning back to where they belong. They came from and shit. So the galaxy is celebrating the fact that they won. Finally, no more First Order. It's all gone. They've stopped them. They ended the First Order and so on and so forth. Now, in the Aftermath comic, by the way, Poe Dameron's Aftermath comic and stuff, okay, there's there's First Order remnants still around and shit that they have to deal with, okay, but the main troop and everyone else in between it are gone. They're dead, okay. Palpatine is no more among them. So, Chewbacca gets the most exciting gift for him, thanks to Maz Kanata, because Leia had the medal that she was going to give to Chewie after everything was over. And Maz Kanata puts it on Chewie herself and said that Leia wanted you to have this, and it's about time and stuff. And a lot of us were like, yeah, it's about time way back in A New Hope that he could have had it. Why didn't he get it then? Anyways, the movie literally is coming to its end here and stuff. Everybody's celebrating. They're all happy. there's a little flirting between Zori Bliss and Poe Dameron, but she's more along the lines of maybe not now, maybe some other time and stuff. And he's just like, okay, you know. But it shows that a powerful friendship formed between Poe, Finn, and Rey. And they all literally are hugging each other, crying and everything else in between. Knowing it's all over. It's all over. They freaking finally won, okay? So, after this is all done and over with, Rey heads back to Tatooine. Literally taking the Falcon and flying back to Tatooine. And she goes... This is the most beautiful shot, by the way. Okay, she's literally in the Millennium Falcon. It's flying over the deserts of Tatooine and stuff, and we come across the Jawas in their sandcrawler. Another homestead area and stuff. Anyways, the Falcon lands at the Lars homestead, and Rey literally goes into it to look around and stuff, and that's when she has Luke and Leia's lightsabers with her. She ties them up into a nice little pouch thing and stuff. Puts them on the ground and stuff, and buries them in the sand on the Lars homestead. And it was like a symbolism of returning the twins, returning Luke back to Tatooine where he came from and stuff, and giving Leia peace at the same time and stuff. And a lot of people were like, where's Anakin at this point? Because he would have been screaming, why are you burying my lightsaber in sand? Why? You know I hate sand. Yeah, it would have been another goofy moment and shit, but that's not the case. Rey then is confronted by an old woman who is an interesting fact here and stuff. This old woman is actually the original Aunt Beru from Star Wars A New Hope. Okay, this is the original actress. She came out of retirement thanks to a talk with J.J. Abrams and stuff. And he asked her if she would like to be in this conclusion to the Skywalker saga. Okay, she came back out of retirement just to do that scene and stuff. That final scene. And she says to the girl, she says to Rey, who are you? What's your name? And she says, who am I? And that's when she sees the Force ghost of Leia and Luke. And a lot of people, you know, got upset about this ending, by the way. But I'll get to that in a minute here. She says that her name is Rey. And she says, Rey who? And she says, after she's seen Leia and Luke nodding to her and stuff like that, she says, Skywalker. Rey Skywalker. And that's when she and BB-8 are looking at the twin sunsets there at the Lars homestead, and the movie comes to its end. We're done. The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker. The sequel trilogy is done. The whole of the Skywalker saga is done. So, now, let's get to the controversies. One, the biggest controversy is that when I saw this in the theater and stuff, where after it ended, some people were clapping and, you know, cheering. Others, there were girls in the back and shit, and somebody recorded video of this too, where they were screaming, "Where's Ben? Where's Ben? What the hell?" You know, and I was like, yeah. I was like, okay, I did not even know they were recording this in the theater. Okay, and somebody recorded this, these people screaming this shit. Well, apparently, this is what happened. That once she used the last of her life force to save Ben in the first place and shit, she didn't have enough there to heal herself from dying. Okay, so Ben uses his life force to heal her and bring her back to life and shit. But he dies in the end. Now, there have been some fan theories about the fact that when he touches her stomach and starts to use the Force on her and stuff, the Force healing life force ability, whatever the hell you want to call it exactly. Okay, there's been some fan theories that he impregnated her. Okay, that he was impregnating her with their child through the force. Okay, and through their love for each other and everything else in between. This is not the case, because that whole thing went right out the window with the whole Phantom Menace birth of Anakin Skywalker as it is. You know, that there was no father. You know, she carried him, gave birth to him, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now, the other big controversy in this is that people did not like the fact Emperor Palpatine was back in this. This literally, like The Force Awakens, felt like a rehash of A New Hope. Last Jedi feeling like a rehash of Empire Strikes Back. This just felt like a rehash of Return of the Jedi. And that was the biggest controversy of it all. Is once they heard Palpatine's laugh in that final trailer and everything else in between that was shown at Star Wars Celebration that year and stuff. It literally was like people saw the movie and found out Palpatine is in it and so on and so forth. People were not happy about it. There were a lot of people that were upset with it. That Palpatine is in it. They could have had Snoke still in it, or they could have just left it at Kylo Ren as Supreme Leader, and so on and so forth. Not a lot of people were happy over that shit. The other thing is the changing of the story Abrams was doing. Thanks to Rian Johnson screwing up shit with The Last Jedi and stuff, and what Abrams was already planning ahead of time in The Force Awakens. Because even though he said that he had no real plan and everything else in between to raise parentage and shit, he actually came back later and said that he actually did have a plan for it because of the one scene in The Force Awakens where Kylo gets upset about asking about what girl, you know, and shit, that was implying something there. Last Jedi screwed all that up. And apparently because Abrams didn't know how to course correct that whole thing and stuff, it just got put into The Rise of Skywalker altogether. And that became an even bigger controversy. So, after this, where do we go from here? Well, apparently they were planning an episode 10 of Star Wars, but they now suddenly there's no more talk of it and stuff. And it was going to feature Daisy Ridley rebuilding a new Jedi Order. Okay? And so on and so forth. Well, so far there's been no talk of it anymore. Since there's been changing of the guard since Bob Iger came back and shit. Okay, there's been a lot of talk about what the hell's coming up still, but it's a possibility we might not get episode 10 the way we thought we were going to. So, that's it. For me, Rise of Skywalker is always going to be my favorite. Yes, it has its stupidness to it and shit, but it's always going to be my favorite because of my personal struggles with my health at the time and shit, thinking it was going to be my last movie, Star Wars movie I'll ever get to see, and the one movie that my mom never got to see. So it's always going to be a personal favorite of mine, but it's also going to be a personal treasure of mine as well. Now, the sequel trilogy entitled in whole could have been done better. Way better. Instead of introducing Zori Bliss, I mean, we still could have had Zori Bliss, but I would have introduced it a little better by saying it was Mara Jade. You know, that this is Luke's wife that escaped that Jedi shit that happened and stuff, and hid Rey away. You know, that Rey is a Skywalker after all and shit. Okay, it's Luke and Mara's daughter. Okay, because in the novels, after Heir to the Empire and so on and so forth, okay, before they did the whole Yuuzhan Vong crap, okay, and really wrecked the Star Wars novels after that and shit, or storytelling in general. Thank God they never did movies about that. Now, one other thing I want to point out differently that could have been done with the sequel trilogy is Abrams should have stayed on the project, okay, for all 3 movies. He was contracted for 3 movies. He should have stayed on that for the 3 movies, okay? Having Rian Johnson come in and screw up everything that Abrams was planning on doing and shit with The Last Jedi really fucked this whole sequel trilogy, okay, literally. Yes, he did his best to course correct what happened with Last Jedi and doing it in The Rise of Skywalker, but he still didn't do enough. It seemed like Abrams was less enthused to do more Star Wars than he was to just go back and do his Star Trek films, okay? Which, by the way, his Star Trek films are hit or miss, okay? Literally. He's only done 3 of them and shit, but they kind of like are hit and miss for me. But that's a conversation for another time. Right now, we're talking about this. And other things that could have been done differently. Instead of making it 30 years later, we could have picked up like a few years later, maybe 2 or 3 years later, and did the Heir to the Empire trilogy. And then made that into live action. There was plenty of source material there to use. I mean, everything from the comics, the comic miniseries about all 3 novels, or the novels themselves. There was so much there with potential that could have been used. But according to Kathleen Kennedy and Disney, there just wasn't enough there in the expanded universe to use. Right. Anyways, we all know that's absolute bullshit, so go figure. My whole ranking on the Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, always going to be my favorite. Rise of Skywalker will always be my favorite. I enjoyed The Force Awakens. The Last Jedi, I could have done without all the stupid humor shit. Seriously. If you're in dangerous situations and stuff like that, why are you going to inject humor into the damn thing? Okay? Not to mention the whole Luke tossing the fucking lightsaber over his shoulder shit. Just felt so stupid. Like, I bet you Mark Hamill was even going, why am I doing this? Seriously. It just felt so random and stupid. So, The Last Jedi, yeah, it's okay, but it's not my biggest cup of tea, if you will. Alright. Anyways, overall, the sequel trilogy is what it is, okay? There's never going to be a remake of them. They're never going to redo them and shit. If they wanted to, they could have done it a long time ago by giving the reins to Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, okay? But none of that's ever going to happen. So people that sit there saying that it's probably going to happen and shit, that they're going to... The Force Awakens, the sequel trilogy that we got is no longer canon, which Doomcock, by the way, a YouTuber named Doomcock, started that whole damn thing and got people, hyped up that this is not going to be this or whatever. No, it's not going to happen. They done the sequel trilogy. It's done. They already moved on and said they were planning on doing episode 10, and New Jedi Order and stuff like that. Okay, but instead, now we don't know what's going to happen with anything. There are still Star Wars movies being made because now we got The Mandalorian Grogu coming out on May the 22nd. And then we got next year in May on I think it was May the 28th that said that it's going to be Star Wars Starfighter. And there's even talks of the fact that Gina Carano, who was DX'd by Disney, which I could do a whole video on that whole thing and tell you all that story. Okay. There's even talks that she might be coming back to Star Wars to play her character again and shit. But a lot of people says because of all that she has done since then, said since then, and so on and so forth, they don't want her back. Okay? Now, like I said, I could do a whole video about that whole thing in itself as it is. Now, in the case of the entire Skywalker saga, this sequel trilogy could have been better. Like I said, it could have been done better if it was in the right hands. Okay, for one, yeah, I would have still kept the character Rey, but I would have still made her Luke's daughter. Okay, it would have been more interesting to see it play out that way and stuff. And a lot of people say, oh, the Skywalker, her taking on the last name Skywalker wasn't really felt or earned and stuff. Well, let's put it this way. In the case of people that get adopted all the time and shit like that, okay, in Rey's case, she had no one. She had no family, okay? So Luke and Leia were her family. To take on the last name Skywalker is literally like they adopted her and gave her the moniker of Skywalker. But at the same time, if the plan had stuck to where it was and shit, we would have still had her revealed as a Skywalker, Luke and Mara's daughter. Okay? I still would have seen it done that way instead of the whole Zori Bliss thing. Zori Bliss is an okay character, but Kerry Russell getting cast as her just to wear a helmet the whole damn that whole damn time and shit, and you never see her actual face and stuff, it felt so disjointed. And like I said, in my case, if I was to go back in time to that point in when they announced the sequel trilogy, I would say I would tell Disney right then and there, he's not going to stick with the project. He'll do the first movie, he'll do episode 7, but then he'll leave after that and wanting to do his Star Trek movies. Okay, you're not going to, once you hire this director, you're going to have the most screwed up rest of the trilogy ever. And everything else in between. Now, my way I would have done it is Heir to the Empire. I love that trilogy so much that it would have been awesome to see it play out that way and stuff on the big screen. But casting of those certain characters and stuff would have been a chore, because you got to find the right people for the right parts. Including the fact that, you know, I know a certain redhead that could have fit the part of Mara Jade perfectly and stuff. Okay? But we didn't get none of that shit. Okay? They had so many opportunities and to do what could have been great for the sequel trilogy and just mashed it together like they were playing with Play-Doh. Yeah, okay? Or taking shit and throwing it at the wall and see what sticks. You know? That's how it goes with this trilogy. Anyways, let's hear your thoughts down in the comment section down below. This is going to be the longest freaking video ever possible, so don't at me about the fact that I took too long doing everything, because this is going to take me forever to edit down. Anyways, let's hear your thoughts down in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss on anything we got coming up on this channel in 2026. There's always more on the way. You never know what's on the channel unless you hit the bell and set it to all. And tomorrow on this channel, you're going to find out who wins the $10 gift card of their choosing in our end of the month giveaway duck race. So, till the next time that we venture into the galaxy far, far away, adventurous ones, until we get maybe a better type of movie reviews, peace out. May the force be with all of you. And every last one of y'all have a safe, lovely, and beautiful week out there. Take care of yourselves, your family, your friends, your pets, loved ones in general. Be smart out there, people. Don't do stupid shit, and don't listen to stupid idiots either that are going to get you badly hurt or 6 feet in the ground forever, alright? Use the brains in your heads, people. Get home safely to the people that love and care about you the most, alright? And every single chance you have, because there are no more second chances in life. We don't live in safe times anymore. Use the chances you got while you got them, and use them wisely. And you let those people in your life know how much you love and care for them in return. Until then, Take care. God bless to all of you out there. Please remain safe. And we'll see you all later.